Ever wished you could just walk into any room and know how to connect with anyone?
It's a skill we all wish we had, right?
Totally. And today we're going to deep dive into someone who seemed to have mastered it.
Oh, yeah. Who's that?
Joe Girard, the author of How to Sell Anything to Anyone.
Now, that's a bold title.
It is, but this guy wasn't just a salesman. He was the salesman.
I'm intrigued. What makes you say that?
We're talking Guinness World Record holder for car sales.
Whoa, okay. That's serious. So are we, learning how to be car salespeople now?
Not exactly. What's fascinating about Girard is that his methods, they go way beyond just closing deals.
Okay, so bigger picture stuff.
Yeah, we're talking communication skills that can, transform any area of your life, whether you're in sales or not.
I like where this is going. So what's the secret sauce? What did he figure out that the rest of us haven't?
Well, he gets right to the point. Starts with this idea of the 7-second rule for first impressions.
7 seconds? That's, barely enough time to say hello.
Right. You'd think so, but Girard was convinced those first few moments are crucial.
Okay. I'm listening. Why so important?
Well, think about it. You meet someone new, your brain's doing a million things at once. Trying to figure out, are they friend or foe? Safe or dangerous?
Oh, so it's like our primal instincts kicking in.
Exactly. In those first 7 seconds, we're making lightning-fast judgments based on all these subtle cues.
Like what kind of cues?
Everything. Their smile, their eye contact, their body language, how they're standing, even how they smell.
Whoa, that's intense. So if someone's, frowning or avoiding eye contact, our brain might interpret that as, a red flag.
Pretty much. On the flip side, a warm smile, direct eye contact, a genuine greeting, all those things signal safety and approachability.
I see. So it's about sending the right signals from the get-go.
Right. Laying the foundation for a positive interaction.
It makes you realize how much is happening beneath the surface in such a short amount of time.
Totally. I mean, I know I've had those moments where I've fumbled a first impression.
Oh, tell me about it. That time never mind. Let's stick to Girard.
All right, fair enough. So, if we want to nail those first 7 seconds, what's the game plan?
Girard keeps it simple. Genuine smile, eye contact, firm handshake.
Sounds easy enough.
It is, but you'd be surprised how many people get it wrong. It's about projecting confidence and warmth, not coming across as, fake or rehearsed.
So it's all about being authentic.
Exactly. Now, here's where things get interesting. You might think selling is all about talking, right?
Yeah, I mean, being persuasive, smooth talking, all that jazz.
Nope. Girard says the real secret weapon is listening.
Hold up, really? I always thought sales was about, being the one doing all the talking.
It's a common misconception, but think about it. If you're just focused on delivering your pitch, you're not actually learning anything about the other person.
Makes sense? You're not tuning into their needs, their desires, their
pain points.
Right. So less dazzling with words, more understanding what makes them tick.
Exactly. Girard believed that by truly listening, you uncover what motivates someone, what problems they're trying to solve, what they truly value.
So it's about tailoring your communication to resonate with them on a deeper level.
And one of the most effective ways to do that, asking open-ended questions.
Give me some examples. What kind of questions?
Things like, what are you hoping to achieve? Or what would make this a perfect solution for you? These questions invite the other person to share, to open up.
That's huge for building trust and rapport. It's like you're saying, hey, I'm here to help you, not just sell you something.
Right. It's a partnership, not a battle. Girard would often talk about how listening helped him close deals that seemed impossible.
He'd listen to their concerns, their objections, everything.
And then use that information to tailor his approach. It's brilliant, really.
So it's almost like becoming a detective of sorts, figuring out the clues to what truly motivates the other person.
And this principle of listening, it goes way beyond sales. Think about your personal life, your relationships with friends and family.
Oh, for sure. How much more fulfilling would those connections be if we truly listened?
Yeah.
Not just waited for our turn to talk.
It's a game changer. Makes the other person feel valued and understood, which is at the heart of any strong relationship. Speaking of making things resonate, let's talk about Girard's next principle, storytelling.
Ooh, I love a good story. In fact, I can still remember this story my grandfather told me about.
Hold that thought. We'll get to your story in a minute.
Okay, sorry.
No worries. But it's interesting you brought up a story you remember so vividly. It proves the point, right? Stories have this unique ability to, bypass our logical filters and connect with us on an emotional level.
So it's not just what you say, but how you say it.
Precisely. Girard was a master of weaving stories into his sales pitches. Instead of just listing the features of a car, he'd tell a story about how that car helped a family create memories. He made the product come alive.
Right. It's way more compelling than just spitting out facts and figures.
It's about painting a picture, helping them connect with the product emotionally. People don't buy products, they buy emotions, they buy stories.
Okay, so how do we become master storytellers like Joe Girard?
It doesn't have to be complicated. Think about things you're passionate about, experiences that have shaped you.
Right, like that story about my grandfather I was going to tell.
Exactly. What stories can you share that illustrate your values, your beliefs?
It's about finding those moments that resonate with you and figuring out how to share them in a way that connects with others.
And the great thing about stories is they can be adapted to any situation. A presentation at work, convincing your friend to try a new restaurant, even just sharing a funny anecdote at a party.
Stories make your message stick.
So we've got first impressions, the power of listening, and the magic of storytelling. What else did Joe Girard have up his sleeve?
I'm on the edge of my seat. What's next?
This might surprise you. He believed building lasting relationships was even more important than closing individual transactions.
Really? In the sales world, that seems counterintuitive. Isn't it all about the bottom line?
That's the old way of thinking. Think about it. Would you rather have a one-time customer or a loyal customer who comes back again and again?
Loyal customer all the way.
Hmm.
But how do you build that kind of relationship? Is it like fancy dinners and gifts?
Nah, it's much simpler than that. It's about making them feel valued and appreciated.
Okay, so how did Joe Girard go about doing that?
Handwritten thank you notes, checking in with customers, remembering birthdays. Simple, genuine gestures.
Those little things make a huge difference. It's like saying, hey, you're not just a number to me.
Exactly. And from a psychological perspective, it triggers reciprocity. When someone does something nice for us, we want to do something nice in return.
It's like a positive feedback loop that strengthens the relationship.
Right. And this
Wow.
applies to your personal connections, too. How often do you take the time to express your appreciation for the people in your life?
I'll admit I could be better at that.
Me too. A simple thank you, a thoughtful gesture, can go a long way in nurturing those bonds.
It's about making people feel seen and valued, which is something we all crave.
Now, speaking of adapting our approach based on the person, Girard's next principle is all about adaptability.
Ooh, this sounds interesting. Is this about, like, dodging objections like a ninja warrior?
Huh. Not quite, though it can feel like that sometimes.
Okay, so what's the deal with adaptability?
It's recognizing that not everyone is the same. Different personalities, different situations, different challenges. You gotta adjust on the fly.
Be flexible, read the room.
Exactly. Let's say you're giving a presentation and you notice people are zoning out. What do you do?
Panic.
You could, but a more adaptable person would sense the shift in energy and adjust. Inject some humor, ask a question, wake them up.
So it's about being present and responsive, not rigidly sticking to a plan.
And remember those different personality types. Some people are data-driven, others are more emotional.
You gotta speak their language.
Exactly. And Girard had this great story about a time he was trying to sell a car to a notoriously difficult customer. This guy was known for being skeptical, argumentative, just a real pain.
Oh, I've met those types. What did Girard do?
He leaned into it, listened to the objections, acknowledged the concerns, and found creative solutions for every single one of them.
So he basically disarmed the customer with his adaptability.
And the customer was so impressed he ended up buying 2 cars.
Whoa, that's impressive. Okay, this is all great stuff, but not everyone is a natural-born salesperson like Joe Girard. Is there anything people can do to develop these skills if they don't come naturally?
Absolutely. That brings us to Girard's final piece of wisdom: mindset. He believed success in sales and in life comes down to attitude.
All right, let's get deep here. What kind of mindset are we talking about?
Confidence, resilience, persistence. You have to believe in yourself and what you're offering, even when you face rejection or setbacks.
Yeah, that can be tough.
It is. But those negative thoughts and doubts, they're just part of the process. You got to choose to focus on your goals and keep pushing forward.
So how do we cultivate this winning mindset? Do I need to go meditate on a mountaintop or something?
That might help, but you can practice these skills anywhere. Challenge yourself to have tough conversations, share your stories with friends, put yourself out there.
So it's about taking these principles beyond just sales.
Exactly. And remember what Joe Girard himself said. The elevator to success is out of order. You'll have to use the stairs, one step at a time.
That's a great quote. It's a reminder that success doesn't happen overnight. It takes effort, dedication, and a willingness to keep learning.
Absolutely. And that's what this deep dive is all about.
I think it's time for a quick recap of all the wisdom Joe Girard has shared with us today.
Sounds good to me. All right, where were we? Yes. Joe Girard's wisdom.
So much good stuff to unpack.
Let's recap what we've learned. We started with those crucial first impressions.
The 7-second rule, right?
Exactly. Got to make those first moments count. Warmth, confidence, approachability.
It's like setting the tone for the whole interaction.
Right. And it's not as complicated as it sounds. Think genuine smile, eye contact, firm handshake.
Basic stuff, but easy to forget when you're nervous.
Totally. We've all been there. But nailing those first impressions, it sets the stage for everything that comes after.
Then we talked about listening, which, let's be real, most of us could be better at.
Oh, for sure. It's so easy to get caught up in our own heads.
Waiting for our turn to talk instead of actually hearing what the other person is saying.
Girard was all about active listening. It wasn't just being polite. It was about gathering information.
Like a detective almost.
Exactly. Figuring out what makes the other person tick. What are their needs? What are their motivations? What are their pain points?
And we do that by asking the right questions.
Oh, yeah. Those open-ended questions are key. What are you hoping to achieve? What would make this a perfect solution for you?
It's about inviting them to share their perspective.
And that makes them feel heard, understood, and valued.
Which builds trust and rapport. And that's huge in any interaction, whether you're selling a car or just trying to connect with a friend.
Absolutely. Then we talk about the power of storytelling.
Which, by the way, I still want to hear that story about your grandfather.
We'll get to that later. But it's fascinating how stories stick with us in a way that facts and figures just don't.
It's like they bypass our logical brain and go straight to our emotions.
Exactly. And Girard, he was a master storyteller. He'd weave these captivating stories into his sales pitches. Instead of just listing features, he'd paint a picture.
He'd bring the product to life.
People connect with stories, they remember stories, and that's what makes him so powerful.
Then we moved on to building relationships.
Yes. This one's a game changer.
It's about thinking long-term.
Exactly. Shifting from a transactional mindset to a relationship mindset.
Because a loyal customer, a loyal friend, a loyal anyone is worth way more than a one-time transaction.
Right. And it doesn't have to be complicated. Remember those small gestures Girard emphasized?
The handwritten notes, the check-in calls, just taking the time to show you care.
It makes people feel valued, appreciated, like they matter.
And that goes a long way.
Then we talked about adaptability. Because let's face it, not every interaction is going to go as planned.
Got to be able to think on your feet.
Precisely. Different personalities, unexpected situations, you got to be able to adjust your approach.
It's like having a toolkit of communication styles.
Exactly. And knowing which tool to use in each situation.
And Girard, he was great at this. Remember that story about the difficult customer, the one who was super skeptical and argumentative?
Oh, yeah, that guy. Most salespeople would have run for the hills.
But Girard, he leaned into it. He listened to the objections, found creative solutions, and ended up winning the guy over.
And not only did he win him over, the guy ended up buying 2 cars. That's the power of adaptability right there.
So impressive. And finally, we talk about mindset.
Yes. The foundation of it all.
You got to believe in yourself. You got to have confidence. You got to be resilient.
Because there will be setbacks. There will be rejections. But you can't let that stop you.
It's about having the right attitude, the right outlook.
And remember that quote from Girard. The elevator to success is out of order. You'll have to use the stairs. One step at a time.
So good. And I think that's a great place to transition into the next part of our conversation.
What do you have in mind?
All right, so we spent this whole deep dive exploring Joe Girard's principles.
We've covered a lot of ground.
But now comes the really important part, right?
Putting it all into practice.
Exactly. So how can our listeners actually start using these ideas in their own lives?
Well, the beauty of these principles is that they're so versatile.
You can apply them anywhere, anytime.
Exactly. Think about your next interaction, whether it's with a colleague or friend or even like a stranger at the grocery store.
I love that. Even a simple interaction like that can become an opportunity to practice these skills.
It's about being intentional with your communication, even in those everyday moments.
So like, instead of just zoning out while I'm waiting in line at the store.
You could try offering a genuine smile to the person behind you.
Or striking up a conversation with the cashier.
Exactly. It's about bringing those principles of warmth and approachability to even the most mundane interactions.
And you never know. You might just brighten someone's day.
Speaking of brightening someone's day, what about those deeper conversations with friends and family?
How can we use these principles to strengthen those bonds?
Well, think about the power of listening instead of just waiting for your turn to talk.
Really focus on what the other person is saying.
Ask open-ended questions like, what's been exciting you lately? Or what challenges are you facing right now?
It's about showing genuine interest.
And as they're sharing, make eye contact, nod your head, really be present in that moment.
It's amazing how much of a difference those small things can make.
People can really feel when you're truly listening to them.
Now, what about storytelling? How can we get better at weaving stories into our conversations?
Well, first, you got to find the right story to tell.
What kind of story?
A story that resonates with you, something that you're passionate about.
It could be a funny anecdote or a heartwarming moment, or even like a valuable lesson you've learned.
Exactly. Once you have your story, think about how you can tell it in a way that connects with the listener's emotions.
You got to paint a picture with your words.
Use vivid language, adjust your tone of voice, bring that story to life.
Now, I'm curious, how can we apply these principles in the workplace?
Well, think about those small acts of kindness that Joe Girard talked about,
Like sending a thank you note to a colleague.
or offering to help someone who's feeling overwhelmed.
Those little gestures can really make a big difference in building a more positive and collaborative work environment.
And don't forget about adaptability.
Right, because every workplace is different, every team is different.
You got to be able to adjust your communication style to fit the specific needs of each situation.
It's about being flexible, observant, and responsive.
And most importantly, remember that effective communication starts with the right mindset.
You got to believe in yourself, you got to be resilient, you got to keep learning and growing.
Because communication is a skill that can be developed and honed over time.
It's not something you're either born with or you're not.
And the more we practice these principles, the more confident and effective communicators we become.
And that, I think, is the real takeaway from Joe Girard's work.
It's not just about selling cars or closing deals.
It's about connecting with people on a deeper level, building meaningful relationships, and creating a more positive and fulfilling world.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, I think that wraps up another fantastic deep dive.
It's been a pleasure exploring Joe Girard's wisdom with you.
And we hope our listeners have found this exploration as insightful as we have.
Remember, these principles are for everyone, not just salespeople.
So go out there, experiment with these ideas, and see how they can transform your interactions and enrich your life.
Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep those conversations flowing.